Hello, and thanks for downloading this episode of Chats Over Coffee with my yoga teacher. It's good to see you, although I can't technically see you, unless this is a very specific situation whereby that's technically true, like you happen to be listening to this and coincidentally I have walked into the room. I mean, that'd be bizarrely coincidental. I'm not sure enough people listen to the podcast to make the statistical reality of that possible. I mainly meant it as a figure of speech. This is, if you've never listened to us before, a podcast between a comedian, and that's me, hello, and his yoga teacher. And we're about to start talking about the back. But also, for some context, this was recorded during Wimbledon 2022. You don't need to know anything specific about what happened during that Wimbledon. Basically just, we mentioned the fact that we are watching the tennis for like a few seconds. Right, time for me to shut up, and then you can start listening to me again, but with someone else. Here we go. Right, okay. Good. So now we have to say hello again as if we didn't say hello a minute ago before we started recording.
Hi again.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi for the first time.
Did you know I went to a play in the park on Saturday? Went and saw Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah.
And there were dogs in the
production?
Not in the production, in the audience.
You never guess who played bottom.
It was an actual ass. No. Usually the good ones, they end up lasting quite a long time.
They're the only good ones.
Really
I hate watching 3-set demolitions. They're just boring. I like watching tennis, but I watched Djokovic yesterday. He was 2 sets down to some quite young Italian guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, as soon as Djokovic broke in the first set of the third, I was just like, he's going to steamroller this. So there was just a sense of inevitability. You get great tennis matches, but they're the ones, the 5-setters they ebb and flow. That's the beauty of it, really. But
and then there's just entertaining people like Grumpy Nick, what do they call him, Nasty Nick. He does something wrong, and then he looks down on the ground and he points at it with his racket, like, yeah, there's a little divot here in the grass. It's like, what? I think I might be really grumpy for it with a game. Like, if I was playing competitively, I think I might end up getting like, it's not me, it was the ground, it was this, it was that. I think I might end up like that.
Do you often blame your mat when you're not doing a good job on the yoga mat?
There's no such thing as bad yoga.
Okay, I suppose so.
But I'll blame my shoes for other things and stuff, yeah. And in the kitchen, I blame utensils. Oh, it's pan sticks. There's pan sticks. That's why your omelette looks like scrambled eggs.
I mean, I watched the Halep game just now as well.
Oh, yeah.
I like her. I think she's cool.
Do you like... for ages.
Well, she doesn't do that much.
She's so loud. She's so loud. Every time she hits the ball.
The reason I like Halep is because she's a bit shorter. I always like short tennis players more than I like tall ones.
Because it's harder if you're short.
Well, I'm short as well, aren't I? So I'm like...
So you associate with them.
Like I'm the Simona Halep of the UK comedy circuit, probably, and vice versa. So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I like her game anyway, but I just think, I've always liked short tennis players because I feel like, it gives us all a bit of hope. I mean, not that I have any hope of being...
No, neither
I'm too old now anyway to pick up. That's what happens now. When you get older, you start... very few, like I look at the Premier League now and I think, well, Ronaldo's still older than me by like a week. And I'm getting to the stage where the only players my age are goalkeepers, and I'm starting to think, oh God, like there's going to be managers younger than me. Now there probably are some managers younger than me. And then I'll be looking at golfers and thinking, oh, well, I'm not looking at it in the hope that like one day I'm just going to be like, I'll jack this in and play golf and I've got a chance, because I don't, obviously. But that is a way you do measure the way that you age.
It is interesting when they're like, oh, he's getting a bit on, he's got 37-year-old legs. And I'm like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm like.
What's wrong with 37-year-old legs? That's all right.
You're getting old, I think, when you have people that are younger than you that you like respect. You start like, actually,
they're not just kids or whatever.
I respect that person's opinions and achievements and stuff, and yet I find out they're like 28, and I'm like,
and then you kind of go, I've changed my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Roger Federer's still older than me, but I think he's done now.
Yeah.
And I always liked him seemed genuinely nice in interviews and stuff like that. But you never really know with a tennis player or any professional sports person because because they make such an effort with PR and stuff.
Yeah.
Now you do not know who the secret arseholes are, do you? Like you're never quite sure because it's all such like good PR to be quite magnanimous and like modest and like always say, oh well, the other guy played so well and he's going to win things in the future for sure, and it's such a great to play such a great champion.
Yeah, they always say stuff like that.
You just so. I just don't ever 100% fall for it, I don't think, by suspecting everyone. That's a good way to live, isn't it?
Yes, just suspect everyone is horrible.
Sure, a lot of them are all really good people, but you don't know, do you?
I feel like you've had some really bad experiences with...
What, with professional sports people turning out to be dicks?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. They never call back, I'll tell you that. There's probably enough preamble rubbish there, isn't there?
What are we supposed to be talking about today?
We're talking about the back.
The back? Like there's only one?
Yeah.
Is it like a band?
The back. I don't know. There's no band called The Back, is there?
It'd be funny if there was.
It's the Backstreet Boys, but that's different, isn't it?
That's not the same. Backstreet's one word, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I might have to cut that out.
What? Because no, I don't think it's got a hyphen in it. I think it's just Backstreet. Yeah.
Is it Backstreet? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's just one word. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Were you a fan of them growing up?
No, I like NSYNC more.
Okay. Well, the Backstreet Boys slightly too old for you, and then NSYNC came afterwards. Do you think that's why?
No, I just
prefer the music.
Liked NSYNC better.
Okay.
Yeah. The Backstreet Boys were very like, yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you, if Nick Carter listens to this, that's going to be very upsetting. Like,
I'm very sorry.
He could be one of our California listeners. Did you see the video they did when the COVID lockdowns first started?
No.
Where they recorded that song. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's... What's the one that goes... I'm not going to sing, but it starts, you are my fire, my one... That one.
Yeah, that one.
They did... I think they did that, but they're all like in their own houses, so they've all got their own recording studio and stuff. And they just like mixed them. But one of them had like his kids on the drums and stuff. But it's weird because they're all like, I don't know, they're all like 50 and stuff, aren't they? So
yeah.
The Backstreet geezers, you know. Anyway, we're not talking about the Backstreet Boys.
No, that's not what we're supposed to be talking about. Yeah. No, we're supposed to be talking about the actual back of the body. Yeah.
So this week, the back. Next week, sack, then crack.
Oh, dear. No.
So,
no. No, just, yeah. Because I did a few classes in a row that were specifically designed for, like, back health kind of thing. So, I don't know, it's quite interesting, but, you start looking into it, and it's a real issue people have. Back pain and problems with their back, and obviously I don't mean from an accident. I mean that's kind of clear, but I don't mean like, oh, you fell or you got in a car wreck or something like that and now you've got back pain. I don't mean something like that where it's actually been an impact or a problem that has caused the pain. I mean just like pain that's just kind of accumulated over time and has just started to be a problem seemingly for no reason out of nowhere. And then people go, oh, I know the reason. It's because I sit at a desk a lot, or it's because I hunch, or whatever, To some extent, that's true. But I think there's a lot of emphasis on, if you go online, or just on the internet in general, just everywhere, there's a lot of emphasis on posture. And I would like to say there's not really any wrong posture. Any wrong posture is one you just hold for too long.
That's interesting, because I remember thinking that I had bad posture, and one reason why I thought about doing yoga was because I'd seen some like before and after meme of like a 98-year-old woman that had a bent back, and then she did yoga and suddenly she's like walking really straight. I don't know whether they're doctored or whatnot, but I remember thinking, oh, well, that'll sort the posture out, because ideally you don't want to look like Mr. Burns, do you?
Of course. You don't want to like actually like fall into okay. So there is a bad habit of posture, if you want to call it that, where you could continuously hold the same position often and regularly enough that it starts to cause problems. So that's what I mean by bad posture, as in there's no such thing as bad posture. It's just posture that you've held for too long. But the problem is that usually does happen, and usually we call that bad posture. Like when you, specifically laptops are killer. Computers, not so much, but laptops, real killer. Because you have the arms usually too far forward, because the screen has to be far enough back for you to see it. So then your hands are reaching a bit. Track pads rather than a mouse. And then there's that whole chicken neck thing, where you kind of stick your head forward and down a little bit. I wouldn't hold that for very long at all. Because what you end up getting is because obviously, so we know as humans, our body is designed to hold the weight of gravity or push back from gravity with the bone structure. So your bones want to take the weight. That's going to be the best way to hold yourself in a position that's how it was made, to put the weight into the bone. So if you stood up straight on your feet, you want the head to stack so that the weight of the head, which is actually really quite heavy, sits on your bones. So the only bones there is the spine, really. And then that connects obviously to your main skeleton. So you just want that weight to settle straight. If the head is forward from the body, then your body, the weight is no longer in the bones. So that means something else has to hold the weight of the head. And what it ends up being is obviously going to be muscle and fascia. And what you get is this funky little buildup right at the base of the neck. So between the tops of the shoulders and the neck. And that goes kind of round. And it starts to build up. And then when those buildups start to happen, that's when you get like those extreme pictures of like the old woman who obviously didn't have any skeletal problems, but potentially had muscle and fascia related problems. And then if you work through that with if it's really bad, I would say go to a physiotherapist, to be honest. But if it's something that you really want to work through, then there are techniques to help kind of release that and kind of break it up a bit, and then bring the head back into alignment with the spine. But in terms of just sitting around and doing stuff, especially if you would say you're young and healthy, then I would say really there's no bad posture. Just be mindful you're not holding the same posture too often and for too long, which is where yoga can be a fantastic help.
Interesting you say that. That reminded me sort of about how heavy the head is compared to and holding it up. And so I have mentioned it before. I listened to the BBC Radio 4 programme In Our Time, where they discuss just historical things of all sorts. But they did one on Homo erectus not that long ago, which is is it the first? Are we hominids? Is that right? The first human animal to get up from crawling around and to, because
just using two legs.
Yeah, because gorillas and monkeys and stuff still are four-legged, really, aren't they? I mean, they have front bits and they crawl around and they can be up, but they don't walk on hind legs, do they?
Not any more than a dog could be trained to walk on hind legs.
Or like a dancing bear or something,
Dancing bear?
That
sounds a bit horrible.
Yeah, it is horrible. It's but don't they train to dance bears? Maybe in the
1800s. Not this day and age.
No,
anyway, continue.
Not. Anyway, so Homo erectus, I think, is the first hominid or whatever we are, the first human species primate or whatever to walk on two legs. But that comes at so you can do so much more by being on two legs. You can hold more supplies while you're going from one place to another. So if you're gathering food and stuff, you can carry more than if you were, having to use four legs to run. Because chimps don't have backpacks, and stuff. So we could do so much more. Well, say we're not Homo erectus, are we? So.
Okay.
We're not,
I get it. I'm following. No, I don't think so.
We've
and
they've actually been around longer than us. They're all gone now, but they were around for I don't know, they might have even been around for 1 million years, Homo erectus.
Right, okay.
So they're precursors to us in terms of getting about and stuff. So they could do so much more evolutionary wise. It gave them an advantage by being on two legs. But the cost to that is poor posture and bad backs and stuff started to become something that, that our human ancestors would get.
Because they weren't really They didn't. The skeletal structure wasn't upright. They were forcing it.
Yeah,
they were forcing it
so,
by standing up and holding it, even though that wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
Even though that's not really the way their skeletal structure was good, you know.
Yeah,
like
they've
like
evolved from the stage where you wouldn't have
Yeah.
been built for that, and then you are able to do it, but you don't have. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're similar in that respect. I mean, I wouldn't trade it in. Like I wouldn't. Like I'm quite happy to be a biped rather than a quadruped.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Quadruped?
I think it's quadruped rather than quadped. Though you could say quadped. Sounds all right.
People would know what you mean.
It sound like you've got a bike with 4 pedals, but
I had one of those. Yeah, so that's where bad backs sort of, I guess, come from, sort of, I suppose. Yeah? Sort of?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Sort of. Yeah.
Well, from an evolutionary sort of, because we would have become
Yeah.
bipeds through skeletons that weren't originally built to be able to withstand holding a head with a big brain in it, basically.
Yeah.
So, but they still evolved for like 1 million years. Homo erectus, so presumably the spines would have been able to support it, but they still, of 1 million years of existing, I think they still had back issues. Because you almost sort of worded it when you said, and maybe you didn't mean this, almost like we maybe have evolved more to be able to cope with being upright. But I think because originally we've evolved from skeletons that weren't, we probably haven't perfectly fixed our spines to be able to support a massive brain and head. And that could be where we still get back issues from, because we're, we're not perfectly evolved, are we? As creatures.
No, of course not. No.
Like, we haven't like made it, have we? Like
that is it.
That's it.
I am perfection incarnate.
Done. Yeah. Because there's loads of problems with, just because we are what we are, we haven't solved everything, have we?
I don't know. I wonder if maybe, like, you're kind of assuming that the brain evolved before the body, but why would you assume that?
Actually, I don't know how big the brain was when, maybe the brain got bigger the more upright we were, and then...
maybe we had to get the spine upright, and then the brain was like, ooh, I've got all this space.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Just, like...
I don't know. I'm being silly. I mean, I suppose what you're saying potentially could be true.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, what do I know?
Yeah, what do I know? I suppose the other thing as well is, like, we said this before when we were talking about sitting too much and stuff, but, like, we are made to be forward and down. Like, our eyes are at the front of our head. We don't have eyes at the sides. We're not birds, we don't have eyes at the side of our head. They're right at the front. Our arms and the way our shoulder joints work are forward. We can't hold things behind. I mean, we can a little bit, but for the most part, we don't. Our arms don't go perfectly behind us like they would do forward. Because that's just not how the shoulder joint with connection to the back works. So everything is forward, and then it's harder to go up than down. It's harder to hold things higher than lower. So it's always going to be natural to go forward and down.
Unless it's a helium balloon.
Yeah. Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose there's always that natural tendency no matter what we do. So, like, a lot of the time people always say about getting on computers and using a desk and using computers a lot. But to be honest, anything, cooking, cleaning, taking care of smaller humans, if you do art, so like painting or something in front of you on a table, basically anything is forward and down. So we all got the tendency to round. And I suppose it's just being mindful that, it's basically just coming back to the idea of body awareness. If you've spent a lot of time forward and down, how much time have you spent countering that? How much time have you spent making sure that fascia in the neck and in the back hasn't built up so that you're stuck there? I mean, I've seen people with, shoulders that are so close to their ears. And obviously you never know, but I could almost assume that it's not skeletal. Everybody's built differently and you can't say for certain, but like usually it's muscle buildup and fascia buildup from either holding their shoulders high due to stress and stuff, or from rounding forward at a desk and things like that. And it's just about becoming aware that you have control over that, and those kind of things will start to impact your life, especially later on if you don't correct them when they're kind of small. Like even just like laying on a couple tennis balls at the back of the neck will make a big difference if you're constantly forward with the head and stuff. But I suppose the biggest thing is just make sure your stomach muscles are still there.
Huh?
Yeah, so your transverse abdominals and the deeper in muscles hold the body in place. When you sit, they completely relax. They don't need to help because you're leaning against the back of a chair. We don't tend to perch. And when we are perching, we start to relax and round through the lower back, and then the belly muscles relax as well. So really, we need to have the belly engaged nearly all the time we're awake. Not like so tense that you're trying to show off your six-pack, but like engaged. Don't relax your belly so much that you can't even feel it's there. You know, it should be engaged. It should hold you upright. And I think that's the biggest cause of back pain a lot of the time, is that there's no core strength, because when it's easy to relax completely in chairs, and then you lose that strength in the core.
So when I was at school, some of the guys I was friends with decided that they wanted to get six-packs, right? Mm-hmm. But then they didn't want to do the work at the gym or anything. So one of them ordered these things online that you like stick on you with wires and stuff and a battery pack, and it keeps stimulating the muscles with electrodes or something.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get one because I sort of thought, firstly, it's cheating, isn't it? If I'm going to get a six-pack, I would like an authentic six-pack, you know.
Okay, and did it work?
I don't know. I think they all gave up, and also they were all drinking too much at the time as well. So it's the electricity stuff is fighting a losing battle. But if you need to keep your stomach muscles engaged all the time, could you theoretically, if you were sitting down and they weren't engaged while you're sitting, could you put an electric pack on it? Would that be good for your back? You don't have to say that you're recommending people do this, but theoretically, stimulating those muscles in a position where they wouldn't usually be. I
don't think you could go deep enough. That's what I'm going to say.
All right.
So the muscles that
unless
you
it's
have
really,
when you have
really electric, like really like super.
Well, then you're going to give yourself a heart attack, aren't you?
I suppose so.
I mean, I just think like the muscles that give you a six-pack, which is what those kind of electrode machines, the TENS machine, it's like a variation of a TENS machine, isn't it? That will, attach to the stomach, would only go very superficial. So those, literally the muscles you could probably grab and squeeze under your skin. Whereas the muscles that you need to have good posture and support are much deeper than that. They're the ones that attach to the spine, like your iliopsoas and stuff that attach to the thigh bone, and they're very, very deep muscles. We say in yoga, if you laugh, if you go ha, that muscle, that's the muscle. That's why yogis don't have six packs, because we're not focusing on those muscles. That's my excuse anyway.
So does that mean if you go ha a lot, then that's good for you? Yeah. So you could say I'm quite good for your back health then. Like have a comic around.
That's it.
That's it.
Laughter is great. Yeah. It really is actually really good.
So really, anything, this podcast is presumably something that's very good for people's backs.
There you go. Yeah. Even just laughing at this podcast is good for your back.
Well, I live to give, so.
Yep. Anyway, do you think we covered that? Do you have any questions? Do you think other people would?
Well, I don't know. I think sometimes, because I don't know how many people listen to this that actually do yoga. Do you know what I mean? So I sort of sometimes think, instead of the lesson to every, like, not that we have like a Jerry Springer thing at the end of every episode where it's like, so what have we learned today? I think you should all do yoga and meditate because it's great. Well, we don't do that, do we? But if someone didn't do yoga and just wanted to do things to help their back out apart from what you just said, then is there anything? Because I don't know, I do know someone that just does cat cows every so often when his back's playing up a bit, but just is there any sort of just like, here's my tips for a healthy back, just do this if you don't want to do the whole caboodle,
so there's a few things. There's always exceptions to like every rule. I always say that. But usually, if you lie down flat on a hard floor, the head will line up with the shoulders, and the shoulders will line up with the hips, and the spine will do its natural curve in between. That should feel comfortable and flat. If the head feels really low, like if you feel like the chest is lifted and the head is low, you can always obviously take a picture of yourself, make sure it isn't actually happening. So in some cases you may have quite a bit of muscle on the back around the shoulder blades or something, and it could actually be higher up than the head, and in that case you might want to pop a blanket on your head when you're lying flat. But normally, assuming you've not, got a lot of muscle at the back of the body or something like that, when you lie flat like that, it should be all lined up. And if it doesn't feel right, that's you need to do it more often. You need to literally just lie down on the floor to get the head back in line with the spine. Obviously, don't have anything behind the head. Don't have a hair clip or hair or barrettes or anything. You move it all out of the way, obviously. But that's a great way to feel that alignment. And again, take a picture. Make sure there's not anything obvious in terms of like upper back a bit high or something, but you should feel quite nice there. And I would say to do that, keep the knees bent and just lay on the floor for a bit, because that would be great. And then the other thing is probably either a mix between your bridge pose, if you're certain you can keep your spine straight, so lifting up and down, just lifting the bum up and down off the floor when you're lying flat with the knees bent. That's probably one of the best things you can do for the lower back muscles if you get lower back pain from sitting, obviously, not from other stuff. And then mobility of the spine is so important. So yes, do your cat-cows. Do as many cat-cows as you can. And make sure, take a video of yourself if you're not sure. I don't usually say to watch yourself in terms of your poses or anything like that, because it doesn't matter what you look like. But in terms of trying to get the mobility in the spine, it can be good to pop your phone against something and just see how much your spine is actually moving. And really, you should move the spine up and down, side to side, and forward and backward 10 times in every direction every day. Because the spine needs movement, just like any other joint. It needs that movement to move the fluid around the discs and stuff.
Right.
So there you go. Those are my tips.
Okay. Do you think cows have really good spines then? Or do they... or not, because they don't do the cat bit.
No, they don't do the cat bit, so I think they must struggle.
Yeah, I think cats probably have good spines. I reckon they're quite dexterous.
They always look a bit, They always... I'm not a massive fan of cats. Sorry, people, but...
I haven't said anything controversial this time, so just like...
Yeah, I'll add that in then. That's my controversial topic. Keep your cats in your house. They poo in my garden.
Nadal's losing.
Oh, bollocks.
Well, do you like Nadal?
I'm not watching it. I need to watch it. Andrew's mom loves Nadal because of his little cute tics. She says, oh, he's so cute. He's so cute. I'm always thinking, can he not sort out some bespoke underwear so he doesn't have to mess around with the shorts all the time?
He's doing that a lot, isn't he?
Like, can you not just get someone to tailor you some underwear? That is just perfect. I mean, you're so well off. You must be able to buy tailored underwear by now. I would, if I was rich. I'd be like, yeah, tailored underwear, top of the list. When people are like, oh, if you're rich, what do you want? Do you want a chauffeur, a cook, or a maid? I'd be like, some tailored underwear, thanks. You're speechless.
Well, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, I really don't. So, I'm not pressing on your specific need to have something tailored down there or anything. Why would you? I find underwear difficult to buy because, it's got to be comfortable in it. But
yeah, you can't try them on.
Can't try it on in the shop.
You just got to guess. Yeah, tailored underwear. It's the future.
I'm not sure I'm going to be measured for it, though. That's the only thing.
That would be a bit strange, wouldn't it? You'd have to do the measuring yourself and then just send them the measurements.
Yeah, but if you're doing the measuring yourself, you'd exaggerate a bit, wouldn't you? So. Just naturally. It's a bit cold. It's a bit cold, so... Add a bit more. Anyway.
Oh, dear.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, then as ever, you can share, subscribe, tell your friends, whatever you want to do. Press a like button somewhere. It's all appreciated. The main thing is, please don't leave us. And if you're a new listener, which I think there have been some recently, I don't think many of the episodes date particularly because we don't talk about current affairs or politics especially, so you can dip in whenever if you want. Just putting that out. And if you don't follow us on social media, we both have Instagram accounts. You can find the handles of those in the show notes or search for our names if you want. I think there is another Peter Brush on there, but I don't think they have a profile photo, so bit of detective work maybe. Maybe I don't want you to follow me unless you can figure that out. I don't know. Anyway, we'll be back in 2 weeks. We talk, among other things, about struggling with our attention spans. See you hopefully then.